All right. Today, we're going to break down three of the most powerful tools in your SQL toolkit: order by, limit, and offset. Honestly, these are your secret weapons for controlling how you get data back from a database. Whether you're building an app, a report, or a dashboard, you absolutely need to know these.
So, you ever find yourself wondering about this? When you see a leaderboard in a game, or the top 10 articles on a news site, or even when you're just clicking through pages of search results? How does that actually happen? It's definitely not magic.
The secret, it turns out, is all about controlling the data you get back. Because here's the thing, without your explicit instructions, a database can just hand you rows in any old order it wants. It's totally unpredictable, it's a jumbled mess, and for pretty much any real application, that's just chaos.
This brings us to a really fundamental point. You could even call it the golden rule when it comes to getting results from a database.
And here it is. This is non-negotiable. If you need your data in a specific sequence, newest first, highest score at the top, you absolutely cannot leave it to chance. You have to explicitly tell the database how to sort it. And you do that with order by. So, how do we fix this problem? How do we tame that chaos? Well, meet our first and most important tool, the order by clause. This is how we take that unpredictable mess and turn it into a perfectly sorted, reliable list. So what is it really? Simply put, order by is a command you add to your query that sorts the final results based on a column you pick, or even a calculation. It's super powerful and, again, totally essential for getting predictable results. And you've got two main flavors here. You can go ASC for ascending, that's A to Z or 1 to 100. This is actually the default, so if you just say order by name, it's going to sort alphabetically. Or you can specifically use DESC for descending, that's Z to A or 100 down to 1. This is exactly what you'd use for things like most recent comments or highest scores. But what happens when you have ties? Let's say you have a bunch of employees all in the same department. How do you sort them? That's where multi-column sorting comes in. It's the tiebreaker. The database sorts by the first column you give it, and for any rows that are tied, it then uses your second column to decide their order. Okay, check out this example. We're sorting our employees first by their department, ascending. See how all the engineering people are grouped together? Cool. But within that group, we've added a tiebreaker, salary, descending. Now the highest paid engineer is right at the top of that group. See? This gives us a much more specific and way more useful order. Okay, so we've got our data in the right order. Awesome. But what if our query finds like a million rows? We don't want to send all of that to our user at once. For that, we need our next two tools, limit and offset. Limit is incredibly straightforward. It's exactly what it sounds like. You're just telling the database, hey, after you do all that sorting, just give me the first n rows. That's it. So if you want the top 5 players for that leaderboard, you'd use limit 5. Let's imagine our query normally returns all 10 of these employees. Well, if we just add limit 3 to the end, boom, it just chops off the rest and gives us only the first 3 records from our sorted list. It really is as simple as that. Now, what if you don't want the first 3 rows? What if you want the next 3? Maybe rows 4, 5, and 6. That's what offset is for. It tells the database to just skip a certain number of rows before it even starts to think about grabbing the ones you actually want. So limit seems simple, right? But, and this is a huge but, using it all by itself can be incredibly dangerous. It can create bugs that are so frustrating because they're inconsistent and just plain hard to track down. And that leads us to our second golden rule. And here it is. This is probably the most important thing to remember. Limit without order by is what we call undefined behavior. Without order by, the database makes 0 promises about the order of the rows. So if you ask for limit 5, you might get one set of 5 rows today and a completely different set tomorrow. It is a recipe for very confusing bugs. Always, always, always use order by with limit. All right, now for the real payoff. Let's combine all 3 of these ideas, order by, limit, and offset, to solve a super common problem, pagination. Building those page 1, page 2, page 3 links you see all over the web. So, to get the very first page of results, our query is going to look something like this. First, we order by something because we need that stable, predictable order, right? Then we use limit 10 to say, hey, we want 10 items per page. And for page 1, we use offset 0 because we don't want to skip any rows yet. We're starting at the very beginning. And the result is, well, it's exactly what a user would expect to see on page 1. Rows 1 through 10, perfect.
So how do we get to page 2? Well, the query is almost identical. We still have the same order by. We still have the same limit 10. The only thing we change is the offset. Now it's 10. We're telling the database to skip the first 10 records, the ones we already showed on page 1, before it starts grabbing the next 10.
And voila, the result is rows 11 through 20. We've successfully turned the page with our code. You can kind of see the formula here, right? The offset is just the page number you're on, minus 1, all multiplied by your page size.
Okay, we've covered the core mechanics. Now let's just wrap this up with some essential pro tips and takeaways. These are the things that'll help you use these tools effectively and avoid some really common mistakes.
So let's recap the big pitfalls. First, and I know I sound like a broken record, but never use limit without order by. Second, be really careful with large offsets. Asking a database to offset by 1,000,000 can be incredibly slow because it still has to scan and then discard all 1,000,000 of those rows. And third, know how your database handles nulls when it's sorting. Usually they get treated as the biggest value, but you can take control of that with nulls first or nulls left.
And here's your quick cheat sheet to keep it all straight. You've got order by for sorting, you've got limit for capping the number of results, you've got offset for skipping rows, you put them all together and you get pagination. And a tiebreaker? Well, that's your secret weapon for getting those perfectly refined sorted lists. So we've really gone from chaos to control. You now have the fundamental tools to sort, slice, and page through pretty much any dataset you can imagine. This is the foundation for leaderboards, activity feeds, search results, and so much more. So the real question is, what's the first thing you're going to build?